Hi, I'm Don, and this is the Hobbyist Geek. Today we are continuing on with issue 12. This is going to be stage 41, if I remember correctly. And we've got our parts right here. From what I understand, this is going to be a very interesting issue because we also get to put in all of these electronics and these switches and wires. So let's crack this open. Let's see what we got. All right, here are the parts that we get with this issue. We've got the Regency ACTR 20/6 radio receiver, the instrument panel box, the instrument panel itself. These are a bunch of button retainers, which we'll get to later. The main light switch cover, the ignition switch, the dashboard trim. We've got the radio, a display, and a side switch, along with a bunch of screws. All right, to begin this stage, we're going to assemble the radio here. And you can see there's some holes up in front. That is for these panels. So we'll start with this panel, and if you take a look, there's a row of small squares and a row of somewhat longer rectangles. The rectangles are supposed to go on the bottom, and it basically just slides in, and you push the posts into those holes, and it should look like that. And then you follow it up with this piece, this panel, with those little slots facing upwards, and you just slide it in with the same method. There we go. And that is what the end result should look like. Then you bring out the top of the dash, and you'll notice you've got these 3 holes here. If you look on the bottom, you've got this post that's going to go in the rear hole. And you can line up the screw holes just like that. And we're going to use 2 JP screws to hold it in place. All right, and that thing should be sitting pretty right there. And that is step 1. Okay, for step 2, we're going to take the instrument panel here, and we're just going to line it up. And you notice there's this little protrusion on one side on both the panel and the backing. So you just line that up just like that. And you take your dash on the rear side and you slide it in place. Lining up the screw holes on either side. And we're going to use AP screws on either side to hold it in place. All right, take a look at that. That's looking nice with that instrument panel way up in there. A nice silver backing. For the next step, we're going to fit the radio right to the dashboard trim here. It actually kind of goes this way. And we've got our radio. If you take a look, real close, you can see there's a larger rectangle with some writing in it. That's going to go towards the top. You can see there's 2 posts. So I'm going to just slide that in, line those posts up, and we're going to use 2 EP screws to hold it in place. And there we are, radio situated just right. Alright, now we're going to add the trim to the dash here. And that is as simple as sliding it in place, just like this. And then we use 2 IP screws in the protrusions here that stand out the most to hold it in place. There you go, nice and secure. Trim is looking fine. All right, this next part is where the fun really begins. Now what we're going to want to do first is take the switch cover here, and it's the one that's got the longer, I'm almost serrated edge to it, and that's just going to slide in there, just like that. Maybe not just like that. There we go. Get it all the way in, just like that. And then you're going to want to take a switch. Now, the switches are labeled incorrectly. In the instructions, it says this is 38E. The actual cable is labeled F. Excuse me. But the fun part is that when you install it, you're supposed to install it with these little metal tabs facing, if you're looking at the back of the dash, they should be facing left. And when you do, you've got this little cover here, and that is supposed to sit on this just like this. Okay? You'll notice there's a little post on here and a screw hole. If you take a look at the back, you can see two holes here. So the post will be situated in that bottom hole. The screw will go there. Well, from what I understand, these switches have been an absolute nightmare for people to put in place and to align properly. So I'm going to do my best here and see what we can get. But once it is situated in place, you'll use an EP screw to secure it. Excellent. Now, you'll know it's in place. I mean, the cable's going to wiggle around a little bit, which is fine, but the backing shouldn't. And more importantly, when you push the button in, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it is clicking just fine. So that's how we know we've got that in place properly. All right, for this next part, we're going to take the other button cover here. We're going to just slide that in place. Maybe use some tweezers to line it up properly. There we go. I think. Looks lined up. And it definitely looks lined up. It's not sticking out very far. It's going to be really hard to push if it's flush like that. Let's see here. Maybe that slot is supposed to go towards the top. If you take a look real closely here, you can see one side's cut out. If you look real hard, there's a little notch down there. I'm thinking that's where that slot is going to go. So we're going to try and line that up properly. If we can. Seems about right. Yeah, definitely lined up. All right, well, let's get the switch in there and see if we can push it. Now, in this case, the switch is going to be C, and amazingly enough, it's actually labeled C in the instructions. So there's our C. Let's get the switch in place. And see how lucky we get lining up our cover. right, and that will be another EP screw. Yeah. And it is definitely pushing in and clicking that switch. So things are looking nice. All right, next up, looks like the spotlight control came out, but that's okay. It's just pushed in there. I may have to glue that later, but we'll get to that later. Next up, we're gonna fit one in here. And if you'll notice, this one's a little further back than other holes. So that's how we know that it's going to be this green wire here, because the switch button is longer than in the other cables. And we just fit that in here and use the cover plate just as we did with all of the others. All right, we've got something really weird on this one. When I pull the switch out completely, it clicks just fine. But when I push it in here, you can hear it click, but then it doesn't come back out. And if I push it up a little bit, I can actually feel it click back out, and then I can push it in again. It's very odd. I'm not sure why it's behaving that way, but as long as the switch works, I'm okay. But we won't know that for a while yet. But we can move on. And the next cable is actually going to be a purple one, or I guess light blue, mixed color. Looks like green and purple. And it's labeled as B, but it's really D. And it'll go in right here, same way as all the rest. All right, there we go. We've got that one in, and it is working fine. And I figured out what was going on with this. Looks like I may put that screw just a little too tight, so be careful of that while you're doing your assembly. Now the next cable, it's kind of hard to miss. It's the longest white cable there is. It's labeled A in the instructions, and it is B in real life. And that one is gonna go here. Now it's slightly different in that the metal prongs are gonna be facing down instead of to the left. And the cover is gonna go sideways. But it's the same concept, same screw. And there it is in place and clicking great. All the covers are in place, nice and neat. It was actually easier than I thought it was going to be based on what I'd seen online, but you know what? I'm not going to argue. I'll take easy over hard any day. Last but not least, we've got our final cable, which is H, and you can't miss this one. It's got the circuit board on it. And you're just going to put it so that the lights go into those three holes with the cable off to the right. And there it is. Looking nice, very nice. Mine won't go in any further than that, and you can see there's that little gap there. I don't want to push any harder. I'm afraid I'm break the circuit board if I do. I'm a little concerned because, you know, if there's any light bleeding out of here, it may show up through other cracks in the dash. But until we get power and control, the control port in here, there's no way to know. Still, looking quite nice, and that actually completes stage 41. Well, that was a fun one, wasn't it, guys? Look at that. This dash is definitely looking nice. Clearly something is going to go up here, I don't know what. But other than that, it looks like this might be complete. It looks like all the holes are filled up. We got our electronics, our buttons ready to go. I can't wait to get all this together. If you like the video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.